Hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for tuning in to the Okiki Podcast. And today I have an amazing guest. Her name is Santia Deck, and she is an amazing athlete. She's doing some crazy things. She has about 300,000 followers on Instagram and 44,000 followers on LinkedIn. And she's really inspiring people with her athleticism and her initiative. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. And thank you so much, Santia, for being willing to do this.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about just your background in general? How did you get to this place?
So I actually went to Texas A&M Kingsville. I graduated in 2014. I was an English major and a psychology minor.
Wow.
So my degree really doesn't have a lot to do with what I do now, but I can say I kind of did what I wanted to do with my degree while I was still in school, because I wrote a book, got it published. It's on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
So I kind of was lucky enough to do exactly what I wanted to do while I was still, trying to finish school. But I guess we use English every day as well. So, in psychology as well, like I use a lot of psychology, with what I do physically. In meetings, of course, we use psychology just in life. So, I guess I was lucky in that way. I had a full ride track and field scholarship, graduated, tried to go pro in track. Unfortunately, I got injured. So that kind of ended my career with track. Then I got introduced to flag football. Did really, really well. I'm currently on the USA flag football team right now. Then rugby kind of fell in my lap. And, I was on the journey this year, actually, for the 2020 Olympics for rugby. We got injured again. So, we're hoping that 2024 will work out. So,
Yes.
That's what we're aiming for now.
Okay, so you do both flag football and rugby at a very high competitive level.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. So what actually inspired you then to do, flag football and rugby?
So flag football, literally, like I was, I was still trying to get over the fact that my track and field career was over. So I needed to find something to kind of keep my mind off of it. And, I saw this sign one day and it was like flag football tryout for women. And I was like, cool, like all my brothers played football. They all did very, very well in their football careers. I was naturally athletic anyway. So I was like, let me just see what happens. I went to a practice and the rest was history. Like I fell in love with it. I've been doing it for 5 years now. Yeah. So that happened with that. And then rugby was even more strange because I was literally just on Facebook. And I got a DM from the USA rugby coach, and he was like, hey, we've seen your videos of you playing flag football. You're really fast, really agile. Have you ever thought about going to the Olympics for rugby? And I was like, sure. And so he was like, yeah, we'll teach you everything. Don't worry, you're fast, And so literally the next week I was flown out to California, went to the Olympic Center. Unfortunately, the coach got fired really 2 days after I landed. So I was out there completely lost. Nobody knew why I was there except him, and he was gone. So the new coach came in, and she was like, why are you here? You don't even know what you're doing. And I was like, look, I was just brought up here because I was fast. I was told I was going to get taught. She was like, I have a whole different plan. So unfortunately, I'm going to send you home, but when you learn how to play, then maybe we can talk. And so that was my first introduction to rugby, and that was 4 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Fast forward to now, everybody was tagging me on Instagram. It's this one really, really, really good girl that plays. She's actually my idol for rugby. And they're like, man, you can do this. You can be as good as her or better. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try to actually learn how to play this sport. And so it's been a year now. I've been learning. Everything has gone so fast. I was in Fiji. I was in the UK. I was in New Zealand for rugby.
Wow.
So my career just took off, but it just kind of took a toll on my body. And I just wasn't able to really, finish through. But 2024 is going to definitely be my year. So, I'm just going to keep the hope alive.
Wow. How do you manage both? Because clearly you're very good at both sports. So is it that you're just constantly at both practices? And clearly they're different sports as well. How do you conceptually and physically and mentally get into both spaces? And is there any crossover? Do they help each other in any way?
I'm not going to lie. It's very hard because how my schedule was going before I had to kind of put flag football to the side for a little while. I was having practice both. So Monday, Thursday was rugby, and then Wednesday, Friday was flag football. And then Saturday I had rugby games, and Sunday I had flag football games. So that was just way, way too much. And plus I'm a business owner, so I'm doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, like my manager was like, yo, you're gonna burn, like crash and burn eventually. And that's actually what happened recently. I haven't really told too many people about, where I'm at with things right now, because I actually had to kind of on bed rest. I was diagnosed with burnout because my body just was like, it wasn't going anymore. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, this isn't me. Went to the doctor. My doctor was like, I told you. Told you to sit down. And,
Wow.
I was being very hard-headed. And so now I'm actually just now getting back into really, really working out. I had to take like a month off. But yeah, I burnt out, and it's hard. It's very hard and challenging. So I had to decide, okay, do I want to focus on rugby or do I want to focus on flag football? And flag football is always going to be here. I already made the USA team, and, we do similar things. Like, I have a lot of games. Actually, all my games for flag football are out of the country. So, I just had to say, okay, I can't physically do that and be an Olympic athlete at the same time. So for now, my focus is more so rugby, but I still do flag football. Like, I still go to tournaments. I still play in games and like charity games and things like that. But as far as it being like my huge, like, main focus, that's kind of on the, I don't want to say I put it on a back burner, but it's not as important to me as rugby at this very moment. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, it's just a walk in the park, because it's not. They both require 100% of yourself, and I'm only 100% of a person. So, I was definitely running myself thin, and I paid for it at the end.
Yeah, because I guess with rugby, like you said, there's that Olympic option, and then flag football's not quite in that space yet. And even then, it's like they're both probably the same Olympics. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, because I know of athletes that like sometimes they do both. Like, was it Haley Wickenheiser? She used to do like hockey in the winter and then softball in the summer, and that just blew my mind that she made the Olympic team for both sides. And I was always like, how?
And that's actually a tad, like, don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it's a tad bit easier as far as like scheduling, because you're literally focused on one sport during the fall and then one sport during the summer, which is a lot easier than if they're both summer sports. And that was my biggest issue, was unfortunately both sports are year round. So it's like I don't get a break at all. And I was just like, yeah. But I thought about that. Like, I always was like, maybe I should try to do like a winter sport.
Oh, yeah.
Really, like, an Olympic winter sport. But I always thought about bobsledding, and I actually got contacted about that before. But I was like, what? Why? But now I see so many track and field athletes, like Lolo Jones, like she does that, so, and she's actually very successful at it. So, who knows? Who knows what God has planned?
That's awesome. What goes in terms of you being a player then for, let's just say, for rugby, in terms of training and fundraising, because you talked about travel and like all those aspects. So what do you need to do to actually like make that happen, I guess?
Unfortunately, when you're an amateur athlete trying to go pro, of course, most of the time you're paying for everything. But a lot of Olympic hopefuls, they have sponsors. So I was definitely blessed to have pretty much everything I needed from different companies that was trying to support, just different people that believed in what I was doing. So, as far as that was it was tough trying to get, people to, of course, definitely bigger companies, because they're like, well, you're not exactly Olympian, but I can see that you're making strides. So trying to just convince bigger companies to support you is a little tough when you don't have your pro card. So I would say that was a challenge for me, but I do have a lot of people that might not be an Adidas or a Nike that was just like, yo, I really like what you're doing. Like, you've been grinding for this since blah, blah, blah. And so I was lucky. I had protein sponsors. I had food sponsors. I had a lot of people that were just helping me. But what, I guess as far as like what it takes, first, definitely having the sponsors. Secondly, having just the drive to just continue every day with it, because, it's tough. Like, some days you don't want to get up and train. Some days you're so sore and beat up. You're like, man, like, I just want to take like a week off, which, it's not something that was possible. And I was training every single day. I was traveling from state to state, training with different trainers, having to go to combines, coming back from like let's just say like I was in the UK, I had to come all the way back. And the next day I had a combine, which was like extremely tough on my body. And then just making sure you're recovering. That's also probably the number one thing for athletes, is like making sure you're recovering just as much as you're training. And for me, that was not balanced. And that's another reason why I ended up hurt. But that, and then just having a support system. having people that believe in what you're doing, you know, because some days you need that. Sometimes you need somebody to say, yo, like, you know, you're doing a good job, you know, you're almost there, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it's not for everybody. That's why it's 1% of the world has ever even, or not even 1%, I think it's even lower than that. That's an actual Olympian. So, you know, it's not for everybody, and it's a tough journey, you know, to say the least.
Do you also have to like see a sports psychologist then? Because you are kind of in a very like, you guys are like the niche, like, you know, people look at you guys and all around the world. Like I'm obsessed with the Olympics, for example, and they're like, wow, those humans are doing incredible things. So do you feel like because of where that standpoint is, you need to like, yeah, get like extra support that way?
Yeah. Even if it's not like a actual psychologist, like somebody that you can at least talk to, because I don't think people understand just the mental load that you have to take on when you are training so much. Because let's just say, you know, you get a little tweak, you know, then it's like in your mind it's like, yo, like I can't afford this right now. So you have to have people that's kind of keeping you stable sometimes. Because it's like, you know, your whole life is literally training at that for like a whole year before 2020 or the Olympics or whatever. So it's just trying to make sure you're still being a human. Because I think sometimes we lose focus on that, because it's like it almost becomes like a robotic thing, because it's like all you do is wake up, train, eat, wake up, train, eat. And sometimes you forget about other things in life, like, you know, just trying to balance your friends, and sometimes trying to balance your relationships and things like that. And you definitely need a support system like anything else in life. But yeah, for athletes on that journey, yeah, you need somebody to talk to, even if it's not, you know, like I said, somebody that's, you know, certified, but just somebody that you can talk to.
Maybe you can kind of elaborate on this for the audience, but I noticed there's like so much more to your brand than even just being an athlete. There's so many facets of what you do. So right. I guess my question to you is, what initiatives have you made to establish this brand, or this, this brand that you're creating across your different social media platforms?
Well, really started in college. I was actually late on Instagram. I got on like, I think 2 or 3 years after it came out.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was like, this is dumb. I was like, you know, we was all on Facebook and stuff, so I was like, why? But then, like, I remember I'm super competitive. So I remember my friend was on Instagram. She was like, oh, I bet I could get more followers than you. And so from there, that's why I was like, okay, let me get on here and, like, prove her wrong. And all I really did, to be honest, was I was posting my workouts that we were doing in college, you know, for track. And people were just like, man, like, that's crazy. Like, I never seen these type of workouts. And then my stomach became, like, a big deal because I had very, you know, noticeable abs for a girl or whatever. And so that became like a thing as well for me. And then I started to actually learn about Instagram. So like I was following other influencers. I was asking them questions. And I remember the first time, like it was this girl that I used to do shout out for shout out with, you know, when I was first starting. And I remember she used to always post like, oh, got the shirt from blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what is that? Like, is that free? And she was like, yeah, like they just send me free stuff. And in college, I was like, free? Okay, let me learn how to get some free stuff because I'm struggling out here. And so, like, I learned that game. And next thing you know, like, I had got my first shirt, which was from Hawaii, a company in Hawaii. And that was it. Like, I was like, yo, I want to make money from this. And so, like, I talked to my mom, who's also my manager. And she was like, you know, yeah, you're getting a lot of followers. You know, let's actually brand this. And she said, well, what do you want to be called? And I was like, I don't know, like, maybe like Princess of Abs. And she was like, why be a princess when you can be a queen? And so then Queen of Abs, that's my LLC, that's my brand. And it just took off from there. But yeah, you know, I was lucky enough, and I tell athletes this now, like, build your brand while you're still an athlete. Because when you're done and retired, nobody cares. I'm just being honest, like you're like old news. So it's like while you're on TV every Sunday or on TV every Saturday, whatever, make sure you're actually making money and building something so that when you're done, you're not lost. Because a lot of athletes have no idea who they are after sports. And so that's what I talk to a lot of kids about too. So I was blessed to have an entrepreneur family, and my mom is like my big supporter. So
what else do you do? Because I think the audience should know this as well.
Yeah, man. Where do I start? So I'm an online trainer. I'm also a public speaker. I'm a published author. I'm a fitness model. I do TV stuff. I was in Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge. I have my own talk show. I'm actually going to be on another show this month that's going to be on Bravo. Can't really say yet, but y'all just look out for me. I'll make a post about it. And then I'm coming out with a shoe line. And I'm also coming out with a supplement line and a sock line and a apparel line. So
wow.
I do. Then I'm an influencer, so I do a lot of campaigns. I do a lot of events, a lot of red carpet stuff, a lot of appearances.
Great. No, I wanted you to share that because a lot of people may not realize, like, you're not just an athlete. You're like a full-fledged kind of like, logo.
I try to tell people that, man, I'm more than just one thing. So
yeah,
you gotta have variety.
Awesome. You kind of mentioned this before, actually, with rugby, but I wanted to ask, what was your biggest obstacle in, I guess, joining this sport or like deciding this is what you wanted to do? And how did you overcome it?
Definitely just learning the actual sport, because the unfortunate thing is playing football for as long as I have, it's a very forward moving sport, and rugby is kind of the opposite. Is you have to pass backwards and everything like that. And so like learning the technique and then like going from that to then going to football was like, you know, like a mind whatever. And so I don't want to say the word, but it was just like, yeah, like trying to just again balance the both. I balance the two. And also just contacts. Flag football is I'm not getting tackled. You know, I'm not having to tackle people. They're taking my flag and that's it. But rugby, I'm literally throwing my body into somebody. Somebody else is throwing their body into me. So getting used to being tackled and waking up with like bruises and cuts and, you know, injuries and things like that, it was different. But I did not realize I was going to love it the way that I do. Like, I didn't think I was going to like getting hit, which nobody likes getting hit, but I didn't think I was going to get used to that. And I am, you know, that's going to make for even, you know, I guess that's going to make me a better actual tackle football athlete, which is another venture I might be getting into, is actual tackle football. So I'm kind of lucky that I'm already doing that. And so it's yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing. It was just trying to, you know, I'm getting hit now. That's different.
I still remember in high school, I had a bunch of friends joining rugby, and I was so scared to join because like some of them were like coming home or like leaving games with concussions. And I was like, what in the world are you girls doing that you have concussions? Like, I don't get it. And they're like, oh, because you tackle, you know, you tackle. So it was really,
that's my biggest fear is like getting a concussion. I'm very like, you know, aware of that when I'm playing and stuff. So, but, you know, that's part of the game when you're playing a contact sport. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, eventually it might happen. Hopefully, you know, God willing it doesn't. But, you know, that is something that you signed up for.
How has being in this competition or this sport had an impact on you personally?
Rugby has literally changed my life because rugby is a reason why I've been able to travel the world more. And I've been able to experience different cultures. Rugby in itself is a different culture because you're coming into like almost like a new family because they are so supportive. Like you can literally go to a game, take somebody's head off in a game, right? Like, bloody nose, everything, and then they're gonna come up to you and say, hey, good game, let's go get a beer. Wow. You know, it's not like any other sport I've ever experienced, because in track we all have that one girl that we all hate. We have that one team we hate. You know, we're never gonna talk to them. Football, same thing. Like, I don't like you. You know, we have that mentality like, I want to take your head off and that's it. Like, I don't want to associate with you. And rugby, it's not like that. Like, nobody has, I mean, we have people like teams like we're like, oh, I really don't like this team, but it's weird because we're still gonna go get a beer with you and talk to you. So it's a very friendly, and it's like going around the world and just saying, hey, I play rugby. Like, you automatically have a friend. Now I have friends like literally all across the world, and it's crazy. Like, I can almost visit any country and know that I have somebody that's going to make sure I'm good. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's so cool. And how much do you feel you've changed since you started this journey?
I guess getting out of that like rival mentality, like, you know, I have to have an enemy, you know, to compete against or whatever, because I wasn't used to that. So I'm I'm not really used to like, okay, you just like almost broke my neck, but I'm going to still shake your hand. You know, like I'm still like getting used to that, but it's made me like a friendlier person as far as competition. And then I'm more cultured, you know, like I was in Fiji, like eating like dinner with the chief, you know, and going through like the ceremony of like respect and everything. And it was just like, man, like, I don't know, like I'm thankful to God. I wish I would have knew about this sport when I was younger, But I'm thankful to God that it came across my, my path, at the time that it did.
And I wanted to ask too then, what are your future plans in regards to this sport? Like, where do you see yourself, in the next 4 years or in the next 8 years as a result of this sport?
Because of rugby too, like I've been able to, partner with different brands in other countries. I have a lot of fans in different countries. So hopefully like that's going to help me take everything that I'm doing to the next level as far as like international stuff. So like speaking internationally, which I had my first speaking engagement in the UK because of, because everybody, that's a big, sport out there. And just building myself, my brand outside of the US. That's like my biggest goal for myself for the next few years, because unfortunately, I get a lot more support in other countries than here because it's still a very new sport here. People are still like, what the heck is this sport? If you go to like New Zealand, it's like, that's football, like for them. So, so that's like the main thing, like just being successful overseas, and just building my name out there.
I guess I want to ask the same question in regards to the businesses and the brands you've created around your image. Where do you see, what are your future plans with those?
Oh man, it's a lot to name, but I'll just kind of sum it up. Same thing, like just building, a name for like, as far as like becoming like a fitness model, in the UK or whatever, and getting my book out in the UK, or anywhere in the world, not just UK. Doing some TV shows overseas, just everything. I just want to be successful overseas in that. That space. So that's like the name. Like hopefully the next few years, I'm giving myself I'm 20, I'm about to be 28. So I'm saying by 30, I want to be a millionaire. So I'm hoping that, overseas would be a big part of why that, becomes my reality. So
final question for you. What do you value the most about being an athlete?
What I value the most about being an athlete is the fact that I am able to use a talent that God gave me for good, to inspire, people to chase their dreams and showing kids that it's possible, and especially young girls, because unfortunately when I was younger, I have a twin brother. So I didn't have female athletes coming into my school and saying, hey, you can be like me. Like, hey, if you work hard enough, this is what can happen. But the guys from like the time they were in like elementary school, they had like MLB players coming in, NFL players coming in. I never saw that. So the fact that I can be that for these young girls and saying, hey, if you want to go to college, this is what to do, this is what to avoid. I can actually tell them how to be successful because I didn't have that as an athlete. That's the biggest thing for me.
So cool. Thanks so much, Santia. And I wanted to make sure that if you have any projects or anything coming up that you want our audience to know, do you mind sharing it with us?
I wish I could share some things with you guys, but I got a lot of top secret things. But I will definitely keep you guys posted.
All right. You guys will just have to follow her socials, which will be included in the description of this podcast. And I just want to say thank you so much again for sharing your story. It's super inspirational and definitely rooting for you for the next Olympics. So that'll be awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.